CASA, which stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates, is a volunteer-based nonprofit organization. Our volunteers advocate for abused and neglected children in the court system. What that means is that they get to know the kids outside of the court system, in their homes, wherever their placement may be. They build a relationship, build that trust, and get to know what the child needs. Then they interview every adult that has involvement in this child's life. That could be the therapist, the doctor, the teacher, foster parents, bio parents, anyone who has any relationship with the child, to really get a feel for what's going on in the case. Then they write a report and send it to the judge. And the judge can use that report to get a holistic, comprehensive view of what's going on in the child's life so that the judge can make the best decision for that child. So we are the voice for the child in court without the constraints of being an attorney or working for the state. Our volunteers are from the community and solely there to serve the children.
I'm Brian. I'm a CASA volunteer. I'm semi-retired, and I was looking for an opportunity to contribute my time to the community with an emphasis on the well-being of children. And CASA has given that to me. I have the ability to be the voice of children in a court setting, and in a court setting that involves neglect and abuse cases. There's one boy who is autistic with anger issues. He's also artistic, and he actually creates his own comic books. He's a superhero, and he's the key character in all his stories. I'm honored that he has given me superhero status, and he gave me the name Super Lava Brian. And after some discussion and meetings, we decided that my superpower would be that I could shoot lava out of my fingertips. After some additional lobbying on my part, he agreed that he would let me also shoot lava out of my nose. He thinks it's gross, but we came to an agreement, and now we fight crime together. There's a young girl who has some real anxiety. She is concerned that her mother is not going to do what she needs to do to get the family back together. I have the opportunity to have an impact on the lives of these children. It's not something to be taken lightly. It is a serious commitment. But I've been given the opportunity to have a positive impact on these children in need.
We really look for advocates from all walks of life, so there isn't any one particular background that's necessary. We have teachers, we have college students, we have doctors, we have stay-at-home moms. The common denominator for our CASA volunteers is that they have a heart for helping children. As far as minimum requirements go, volunteers do need to be 21 years old. We do a background check, so you need to be able to pass a background check. And we also ask that you complete a 30-hour pre-service training. Some of the topics that you'll be covering in the pre-service training, you will gain a better understanding of neglected and abused child's experience. So any trauma that they may have experienced. You will also learn how to build rapport with children. We look at all the different professions that you'll be interacting with: social workers, attorneys, biological parents, foster parents, and we also work with you to understand how to obtain confidential records. We go over sections on addiction and poverty. These typically affect a lot of the families that we interact with. We also like to look into and check our own personal biases. So we want to make sure that as advocates for these children that we do not look down on the families that we're working with, and that we really try to know what our biases are going into things so that we can work better with the families and children and have better outcomes.
Two children became involved in the court system after their older sister disclosed sexual abuse by her stepfather. The stepfather was asked to leave the home, and the older sibling was allowed by mom to live with a friend of the family, and she kept the younger two children in her care. During this course, a CASA advocate was appointed on the case, and the younger two children remained within the court system while the older child received permanent custody with the family friend. The younger two children remained in the court system this entire time with the CASA advocate. The children had remained with their mother initially, but then it was discovered that their stepfather was having contact with the children in spite of a court order. So the judge ordered that the children be removed from mom and placed in foster care. The CASA advocate was really consistent in going to see the kids and developed a really great bond with the two children in their foster home. Unfortunately, throughout the course of the 18 months that the children had been in care, they were placed in 4 different foster homes. That is a little unusual for CASA cases, but this was in no fault of the kids at all that they had to move different homes. It was evident the bond that had been created with the children and their CASA advocate, as when I got to go on a home visit with her when they were placed in their last home, the children ran up to the advocate, called her name, and gave her great big hugs. They had only been in that last home, their 4th placement in 18 months, for a couple of weeks. And it was evident to me, just as an observer during that home visit, that the children were really safe and secure with their advocate. She had done that by being a positive role model for them during the course of the first 18 months of care, and she had maintained her consistency with them in visiting every month and advocating in the court for their best interest. The children are now in a safe and stable home that is a concurrent adoptive home. The CASA advocate continues to see the children regularly and ensures that the best interests of the children are advocated for in the family court system.
So after you complete your training, you'll be sworn in by a family court judge, and you'll be sworn to confidentiality in your case, and you'll be ready to take cases with CASA. You'll have a meeting where you can talk about your preferences. Some folks like to work with younger age kids, toddlers, because that's what they're familiar with or that they've worked with in their past professional lives. Other folks maybe have linguistic skills, and you might want to work on a bilingual case or with older teens because that's your area where you connect really well. We'll talk about geography, although we really can't control where our kids are going to get placed. And the whole goal is that wherever your child gets placed, you would continue to work that case. We will try to match you with your case preferences, and you'll always have the opportunity to say yes or no, this is not a good time for me, or I don't think this is a good fit. But we hope that you'll say yes. When you do say yes to a case, you won't be doing it all on your own. You'll have a volunteer manager who will be there with you to help guide you through the court process, help you understand some of the terminology or some of the dynamics in your case, and for you to bounce ideas off of in case you're having trouble figuring out how to get to the right end result for your kiddos and your family. We expect about 10 hours a month out of our volunteers. In the beginning of a case, that might be a little more because you'll be doing a lot of interviewing folks, records gathering, getting familiar with the case. But as the case goes on, that may drop in a particular month to 5 or 6 hours. That all depends on what the case requires. And sometimes then you'll be writing court reports, so you'll have more time, or you'll be attending court. That only happens about every couple of months in most of our cases. The last piece is that we have 12 hours of community education that we expect out of our volunteers in a calendar year. We make that easy for you. We provide in-service trainings here at CASA of Lexington. We also provide online webinar links to national CASA webinars and Kentucky CASA Network webinars. And you may also be doing continuing education in your profession, teaching as an attorney, as a medical professional, that might relate to working with CASA kids. And we'll count that as well toward your CASA continuing education.
Okay, so one of my favorite CASA stories was when I had a husband and wife pair, CASA volunteers, who were assigned a case. The case had 2 little children who were separated when they were removed to 2 separate families, to 2 relative placements. They were removed from the home because their parents had really fallen so low on their luck. They had substance use disorder, they had lost their housing, their transportation, they lost their jobs, just were really hitting rock bottom. So then these CASA volunteers came in, and not only did they follow these 2 kids to these 2 separate houses in 2 separate cities and made sure that they were okay and built a relationship with them, but they also connected with these young parents who just needed a support system. So this husband and wife CASA advocate pair invited the parents to their church, connected them with people who helped them find employment, and then gave them a support system that they needed in order to encourage them to follow through with substance abuse treatment and get the help that they needed there. They had support through donations of furniture and finding housing and clothing and everything that they needed in order to be successful humans and parents in our community. And so it was really exciting to see right before Christmas, the judge granted reunification, and these kids were able to go home to their parents and have that family life again and continue with those bonds with the kids. I really believe that it was all due to the CASA advocates being that strong support system that the whole family needed.
Studies have shown that 90% of judges feel that CASA is helpful in protecting the well-being of the children that we serve. So family court judges in Fayette, Bourbon, Scott, and Woodford rely on CASA volunteers to be the eyes and ears of the court in some of their most complex and challenging cases. Some examples of how CASA involvement improves the outcomes for the children that we serve include often the cases are resolved months sooner, and studies show that placements are less likely to disrupt in the future when a CASA is involved. With that, there are typically fewer placements for the child, so that just kind of helps provide for some stability for the child, which is important. When the CASA volunteer brings attention to the child's needs, judges tend to order that more services be provided for the children, which results in the CASA children's needs being met.
When I first got out of training with CASA, we all had to go to cases just to look at them and know what to expect when it's our turn when we get assignments. And so the first time I went to court, I sat in Judge Messer's court, and I saw so many cases of children that are in need of CASAs. There were so many cases of abuse and neglect, and I had not realized how much of a need that we have for CASAs to, help these children. I didn't know how bad it was in Lexington. So once I was in the court, I saw that several of the cases were asked to be assigned a CASA volunteer, and I immediately just realized that we probably don't even have enough volunteers to take all these cases, and if so, one volunteer might have several cases. So that night, I just kept thinking about how many of these cases actually get CASA volunteers, or are these children going to get the help that they need? It really saddened me. So when I first got my assignment, I had 2 little boys. I helped with them. They were in a really rough situation, visited them regularly, and while I was there, I realized they had 2 older sisters, and their older sisters were very troubled as well. It wasn't until that I made those notes in my court report that the judge realized these older girls need a CASA too. And so it's just very important for CASA to be there, because without a CASA there, I don't think that without that report being written, the judge would have realized that those girls need a CASA too. It's just small things that make a difference, in the lives of these children. And I believe that without CASA, they wouldn't have had that. So it's just really rewarding to me to be a CASA, but it's also really rewarding to see the growth in these children and to also know that you made a difference in their lives.
So if you're feeling called or inspired or just have questions, then give us a call at CASA of Lexington. Our number is 859-246-4313. Or email Ben Kleppinger at the email that you see on the screen, or go to our website, casaoflexington.org. Once you send in your application via the website, then we will contact you, get those background checks done, set up an initial interview, and you'll be ready for training. We're so excited to meet you. Can't wait to hear from you.